Good afternoon, Mr. Clamola. How are you?
Good, Mr. Gormley. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's time for another edition of From the Pressbox.
Yes, it is. I look forward to this every week, my friend.
I am very excited as well, and we are inching closer to the start of football season officially. College football kind of got underway last week, but really gets underway this week. So
Yes,
on the show today, we get to go all into college football. We're going to get you all ready for that. Of course, we'll also have our weekly segments, Play Clock, Leroy's logos, and drivers and so on. And we also get to really get the pick contest rolling.
right.
Really get it rolling this week because there's no longer just high school games to pick. We actually have substantial things to pick from. That will be how we close the show today. And then I kind of have it off my chest. That I don't know. I still am deciding whether I want to get it off my chest or if I just want to let it boil inside of me for a little bit longer. You know how that is.
I do.
And if I want to get it off, and I think I do, but yeah. So we'll decide that as we continue to go along.
Did you see the crazy Greg Maddox stat today? Did you
No,
see that?
I've been. Since we talk about our jobs, my first college game is on Saturday for center. So my week is literally, if it's not about Grayson County, McLean County, or Center Hanover, I haven't seen it.
So only one man has stolen at least one base and not gotten caught in 10 seasons. And that man is Greg Maddox.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I was looking at it today and I was blown away by that. Every couple months I find a new it says most MLB seasons stealing at least one base without being caught at all is Greg Maddox with 10.
Interesting. Greg Maddox stats to start off the From the Press Box show. We say that it's a show about nothing. And that's really what it is. Because we never know what we might talk about. But what we really wanted to talk about today is college football. Because
Yes.
Leroy, that gets going. I know that there's games tomorrow, but we can really say it starts on Saturday.
It really does.
That's kind of
really
like the kickoff to the brand new season. Obviously, it's the time where everyone is feeling either very optimistic or very pessimistic. And I know that really our two teams are probably kind of fitting in both of those categories. As Kentucky fans, probably more optimistic, whereas Northwestern fans are just kind of like, does it really need to start?
Well, I tell you what, you say that, but Northwestern fans would love nothing more than to get the season started in the hopes that
it might be good.
That they can put all of the summer stuff away. A new head coach, a new, let's just go. Let's just forget all of that. Let's just go. So,
but on the show today, we are going to be going through, because everyone that listens obviously wants to hear us go conference to conference and make our picks for who will win each individual conference. And then we'll also make our playoff picks, which will be the 4 playoff teams and so on. And then we'll dive into our usual weekly segments because we might have to actually save a little bit more time for the pick segment because there's actually, I think, an opportunity for like 9 games or something like that this week, or 8 points, or I don't. What am I saying? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We get the potential of 8 points a piece, but 9 games because obviously we can't pick at least one of the games because I can't pick Grayson County, McLean County, and you cannot pick Taylorville and Robinson.
Right.
Did I get that right?
You did. Taylorville and Robinson, yep.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about that later on in the broadcast because I don't know anything about Robinson, but I do want to guess. Are they the Rams?
Yes.
Are they really?
I think they are.
I hope I'm right.
My research doesn't start till Thursday. I did do a little bit of it today, but it's a home game. And so I was actually spending a good majority of my day today going through stuff from last week to send to the coach who was looking for a little bit of motivation for his troops. So he wanted a little bit of highlights from last week. And, the toughest thing about doing some of these broadcasts is we kept getting interrupted by the weather thing kept going off during the broadcast. So like I'd have I'd have a good, good football call, and then this is a weather alert from it's just like
so we had they're the Maroons too, from what I just Googled. If Google's lying to me, but that's a terrible nickname. Like, come on, Robinson, you need to be better. You need to be better than that. We had, so our game started 30 minutes later, and it's wild. This is still, I'll probably never forget this, is that we're going, and I had a new color analyst who joins me for the second half, and he has the cardinal sin of broadcasting, Leroy, where he says, "Was that lightning?" And I look at him, I'm like, "What are you doing? Stop."
No!
And then 5 minutes later, they clear the field, and it was perfect outside. There was some, lightning off. I know some people will call it, the quote unquote heat lightning and so on. And it's great. It's golden. I walk down there and I kind of find the athletic director. I'm kind of like, okay, hey, what's going on? So on, blah, 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 blah. Good. We're golden. We're starting back at this time. I am walking up the stairs. I sit back in my chair and I look down as the teams are getting ready to come back out onto the field. And I'm like, man, it looks kind of windy down there. Like the wind's picking up. And I kid you not, a minute and a half later, monsoon. They start the game and it just starts pouring and pouring and pouring buckets of rain. And it's just hilarious because it hadn't rained a single drop during their lightning delay. But they go out there and they play. And I'm sure that the head coach was like, what are we? We're messing up this. Like, it's the first home game of the season and we're already tearing up my nice grass field. But I just found a chuckle out of that.
We didn't have any rain where we were at. There was a ton of lightning
it probably rained for 10 minutes, and that's it. But it poured those 10 minutes.
But my buddy, my coworker, had to call a game, and I get a message about 8 o'clock or about 8:30. So 30 minutes after their game started, I get a message. What happens if this game gets delayed? And all I did was text him back and say, "Hope you had nothing planned for tomorrow." That's all I said.
Luckily for us is we were thinking during this so it's 30-minute delay. Luckily, I have the ability to cut it to music. We went back to music for a little bit and so on. But we were thinking about the same thing when the game got put under delay, it was like 6:06 left in the third quarter. So we began having the discussion too, it's like, what's the rule on, like, baseball? It's after X amount of innings, you can call a game and say that team won. And I was like, I don't know the rule to that. I said, I don't know if there is one. But then I'm thinking the other team that Grayson County was playing, same thing as your realm, is it's 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to go home to only get up the next morning to have to drive all the way back to broadcast another game. And it was interesting. And it ended up, in the end, the game ended up finishing and so on. And I ended up getting out of there about 12:30 that night. But it's one of those nights that makes our industry, and I don't know. It's just fun.
And you don't get storms every Friday, but when you do, it does create some kind of interesting situations where you're kind of doing the math as far as like, okay, what is the broadcaster, like, what do you do, man? You send it back to regular programming, but there's always that kind of a touchy, weird area with that.
Well, see, the funny thing is that all week, well, really for the last couple of weeks, I've been meaning to create a graphic for our video broadcast for a weather delay. Something that had our logo that would go with like raindrops falling on the sky or something like that. Yep. And I had been meaning to do it. And like after week 1, I looked at the forecast and it was great weather. So I was like, okay, I don't need to do it. And then last week I got my reminder that set it up again. And I looked and it was like going to be, 95,000 degrees outside, but no chance of rain. So I'm thinking, okay, we're golden. Like I can wait another week. I had plenty of other things to do. And you know how this is when things get pushed down the list. I learned my lesson. Learn my lesson because even that morning I looked and I'm like, yeah, we're good. Like no chance of rain. And I mean, it was only 10 minutes that the rain happened, but we still had the 30-minute lightning delay. And it was just funny because probably if you ask the kids, that was probably the 10 minutes of football they've enjoyed playing more than 10 minutes of football that they're going to play all year because it's pouring rain. You're going to remember that. It's muddy, mucky, sloppy, and everything.
We used to love playing football in the snow. If it was like snowing out, we would go out there all the time, and just it was just
absolutely.
if you didn't come back just completely soaked from head to toe, you were doing it wrong. So I remember those days of really really loving that feeling.
Without question. And we're kind of getting off topic, but that's what this podcast is about, is us getting off topic.
But it's talking about the press box. It's talking about ways that we deal with because we do. I mean, we do have to prepare for everything as broadcasters, and sometimes that involves, and I'll tell you what, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but going to the race this weekend, it rained for the first 7 hours, and they had to scramble to figure out how to get practices and qualifying in and all of the other stuff. And so like they were horrible at putting out like when stuff was going on. So it was kind of a same thing of, all right, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to fix this? So it's not just us that run into that problem. It happens at the big levels just as much as it does at our levels.
And it's one of those things, like, even in the moment, I was like, well, because, my crew, I have a brand new crew this year, and they're all like freaking out. And I'm like, just bring everybody inside. No one get electrocuted. Like, nobody get struck by lightning. Like, let's just come inside and chill. And, they're all like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? And I was like, listen, we can't control it. So let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
We're here until they say we have to go home. And we'll be the last ones to leave, because that's just how it works. College football season, though, kind of started last week with week 0. I know I watched a little bit of a couple of the games, but this year for college football, it is interesting because Georgia has won the past 2 college football championships. They're going for the 3-peat this year. And I mean, if we're being honest, and I know you'll probably roll your eyes at this, I mean, the college football runs through the SEC. And I mean, even you being a Big Ten homer, I mean, that's just fact, is that it runs through the SEC. And I mean, the SEC has had pretty much every national champion except for 2, I think, in the last 15 years. And because of that, I think it's really interesting to start with the SEC and talking about them as saying, can Georgia make it 3 straight? And I'm not even talking about national championships, but just talking about, can they win that SEC title again?
And that's going to be kind of the question, right? Everyone knows that because the SEC is one of the best conferences in football, that it's very deep. It's very deep, and short of maybe 4 or 5 teams, it really can be almost any one of those teams winning on any given Saturday. And that's what makes things really, really interesting, because there's so much depth, because it's such a good conference, that it really kind of makes things interesting when it moves down. I mean, you look at some of those teams. LSU has been down a couple of years. They're looking to be a really, really good team this year. Alabama, you can't take anything away from what Nick Saban has done with the Crimson Tide. Tennessee is trying to be relevant as far as don't look at me like that. You want to talk SEC, we're going to talk SEC. Tennessee was very good last year with Hooker at quarterback, and they're looking to be relevant and in that conversation. Obviously, I don't think that they are there yet or will be there, but that's a team that feels that they should have their name recognized and be part of that conversation.
Yeah. Tennessee.
Sam, in order for us to do this, we have to be able to talk about this.
Do we need to talk about Illinois football next? Or I guess that's that Northwestern's biggest rival, Illinois.
Yes.
Okay. But, I mean, I agree that I think that, and I mean, you even got teams like Texas A&M that are always in the conversation. Florida is kind of on that downward trend of they've struggled over these past couple of seasons as well. And then you got some of these like mid-tier programs.
You guys should get 6-7 wins. Yeah.
Kentucky is looking at, 8-9 wins is more of the expectations for Kentucky this year. Okay. But I think you see some of that mid-tier teams that on a given year could make a run, like the Kentuckys, like the Missouris, like the Ole Misses, in that realm of that kind of mid-tier SEC. But speaking of the SEC, and we kind of got to go and talk a little bit, at least mention the laughing stock of the SEC. Did you see about Vanderbilt? Did you see all that over the weekend?
With their stadium, with the fact that all the stuff
we can start with the scoreboard. So if you don't know, Vanderbilt is renovating their stadium. And they put on their because they blew up the end of the stadium that had their nice scoreboard. So because of that, they had to bring in a temporary scoreboard. And how do you bring in a temporary scoreboard? Well, you hang it with a couple of cranes. And it's hilarious because they put up there at the beginning of the game, like, get away from metal objects. There is thunderstorms in the area as the scoreboard is being held up by two massive metal cranes. And it was just funny. And then you add on to that the visiting locker room gone.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? It's just like a couple of tents that you'd find at tailgating. Like they've just taken a couple of the big like circus tents and been like, hey, I don't know. I don't think Alabama comes there, but it's just hilarious. Like, hey, Nick Saban, come get in the circus tent to be your locker room tonight.
Well, you and I went to the Pressbox at Vanderbilt. You and I have been there for a game, and it was relatively decent, other than the whole Chick-fil-A fiasco.
Yep. I'm still mad. I'm still mad. I am. No, let me see your thing. I got to punch your ticket. You get 2 chicken minis or a chicken biscuit.
No more.
2 chicken minis. That's not even going to make a dent in me. Because most, and again, we talk about the jobs in this podcast for the most part. And again, this is such like a media like first world problems. But like at most media places, when you go, they do a media meal. So like at WKU, for games that we would cover, Leroy and I, they would literally have a restaurant come in and cater, and it would be whatever you want to eat, it's yours. Like if you want to sit down there and eat 4 pizzas, Merry Christmas. Knock yourselves out. Vanderbilt, though, we go there and they say, well, we're going through the line. Leroy and I are both hungry. And they say, you get 2 chicken minis or 1 chicken biscuit. And I'm thinking, okay, this is just like a one-time thing. We go up and then we can go down, eat, and come back for more. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what I picked. And she's like, let me see your credential. So I hold up my piece of paper and she pulls out a hole punch and just gets that. And I'm thinking, well, crap, now I can't go back and get any more. And she's like, nope, you had yours.
You've used your 2.
No more for you.
No more soup for you.
We're getting off topic though.
But yes, as far as the SEC goes, obviously when you look at those top teams, it's going to make for some really interesting football, especially down the stretch between the powerhouses in that conference.
So, Leroy, make your pick. Who wins the SEC?
All right. So, my pick for the SEC has got to be Georgia. I'm going to give the dark, and I have a dark horse for almost all of these. My dark horse is LSU.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing that LSU. I just don't know that I can call them a dark horse.
Again, maybe dark horse is the wrong word.
You know who I'm going to say for dark horse, because I think would fit the category of dark horse?
You guys.
University of Kentucky.
You guys.
Do I think that they're going to win the SEC? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because, Kentucky's got a brutal SEC schedule. They host Alabama and Tennessee this year, and they go to Georgia. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. But it'll be the first time that Alabama's come to Kentucky in years, which is really cool. Well, because they do the weird thing in the SEC, and luckily they're getting rid of this when Oklahoma and Texas come in, where you play all your SEC East, because it's divisions. You play all of those schools once, and then you play a permanent SEC West team. For Kentucky, it's Mississippi State, and then you rotate the other ones. So you play one other one a year. So then it goes like home, away, home, away, home, away for all of these teams. So you play each team every 12 years, once at home, once on the road.
Okay.
So because of that, it's been 12 years since Alabama has come to Kentucky.
Wow.
And they're hopefully changing this, it sounds like, with the new scheduling based on that. But we're both agreeing that Georgia wins the SEC, right?
Correct. Yep.
We'll go with the second best conference. and that is probably the Big 12, right?
Sam Gormley, stop it.
And then what you've I forgot to even put one on here. I had made a pick. I knew I was missing one conference when I was listing it out. Okay, the Big Ten. Who wins the Big Ten?
So the Big Ten is really interesting this year. Obviously, you have the very, very stacked East, right? Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. All three of those teams are going to be powerhouses in the SC and the Big Ten. In the Big Ten, they're going to be powerhouses in the Big Ten. And then you got the West, or
the redheaded stepchild,
which is so bizarre because the West is just like, all right, yeah, you guys are here too, but because you have Nebraska, right? Nebraska always feels that they want to be a contender even when they're not.
This is our year. The Dallas Cowboys of college football.
It's so embarrassing, and I hate it. I can't tell you. And if you're a Nebraska fan, you're watching, God bless you, but my goodness, you haven't been relevant since the 90s. Stop it. You do have a new coach.
They
hopefully
had that little run with Bo Pelini. Give him credit. About 15 years ago.
But Wisconsin is probably the best team out of the West. They're revamped. They have a new coach. They're looking to be a threat to some of those teams. Iowa still has no offense, and they're going to use their top defense to try to win games. So Iowa's going to be a whole lot of what you saw last year: 10-7, 7-3,
the worst.
13-7, just awful football games that have a ton of turnovers. So, but if I have to pick a team, I got to go with Michigan. Jim Harbaugh said they have 20 guys that could potentially be drafted in the NFL. Now, obviously, a coach will be biased towards their own team, but this is a team that's returning a ton of players, and Ohio State just has not had an answer for Michigan over the last couple of years, and I don't see them having an answer this year. But if Penn State is able to upset both those teams, James Franklin needs to be coach of the year.
Yeah, and I agree in picking Michigan to win the Big Ten, and then I mean it's whichever Big Ten team comes out, they'll just lose the SEC, so it doesn't particularly matter that much. Doesn't matter what. Put Vandy would win the Big Ten.
Okay, Vandy doesn't even have a football field right now.
They do. They just don't have a visiting locker room. You don't need that. Let's go pack whatever we want to call it.
Pack 4.
Well, I guess they've got more than 4 right now.
Right now, yes.
And for me, I think it's got to be USC. You've got the returning Heisman Trophy winner and Caleb Williams. Oregon's always going to be in the conversation, but I like Lincoln Riley. I think USC is probably the best team in that conference.
Yeah, I have USC. I think Utah could cause some problems over there. Utah's had some really good teams over the last few years. I think if anybody's going to upset USC, it will be Utah. But no, I picked USC to win. Caleb Williams just elevates that team to a level that not many teams will see this year.
Big 12. And here's kind of my hot take, just because I feel like one of these years you got to be right. Is Texas, right? Got to be right one of these years, right?
And see, here's the thing: is this is literally what I put. I put Texas, LOL, TCU.
Okay, so you're picking TCU to repeat. I'm gonna just because you know what, I'm gonna have some fun. I'm picking Texas. Okay. Quinn Ewers, starting quarterback. He's good. Maybe it'll be Arch Manning. Maybe he'll end up getting some snaps. And just because why not? One of these years you got to be right in picking Texas. One of these years you'll have to be right. Final Power 5 conference, ACC.
All right, I'm going to buck the trend. If you would have asked me about 25 minutes ago, I would have gone with Clemson because that seems like the normal safe pick. But in your Texas pick, I'm going to go with North Carolina.
I thought when you were going to say that was going to bring you out Florida State.
See, and that was another one that I was thinking about too. But Florida State seems to be on a downward spiral. Maybe not a downward spiral, but they seem to be
still I think 10th to start the new season. But they're always They're always right there.
I know it.
The ACC, I literally wrote down here, question mark, question mark, question mark. I literally have no idea.
In theory, it should be Clemson. In theory,
I think probably, like, if I have to pick, I'm picking Clemson. But here's the thing. The number one team in the ACC this year, I don't think would be top 5 in the SEC or the Big Ten.
No.
I think it just shows how weak of a conference it is.
It's probably having one of its worst years as a conference
it's
overall.
Stretch, because even Clemson has not been as good the past couple of seasons.
No, and the thing is you got to wonder, because the ACC really hasn't done a whole lot of conference realignment. There hasn't been a whole lot of teams that have been.
Well, they're about to potentially add Stanford and Cal, because nothing says Atlantic Coast like Stanford and California.
But they're literally only doing that because the Big Ten grabs stupid USC and UCLA.
And Oregon and Washington, right?
And Washington, yeah.
But I
hate it so much.
We've already talked about it. You don't need to get back on the soapbox. It just makes me laugh that, Atlantic Coast Conference. Yeah. How about California? Because there's nothing more Atlantic than California.
All right. So you're going with Clemson. I'm going with North Carolina.
I'll pick Clemson, but literally, I don't think you could say a team in the ACC, and I'd be like, oh, maybe not. But like, I could see any of them potentially coming in there and doing it. How about the AAC, the American Athletic Conference?
So the AAC, I have Tulane.
I agree. I think that they'll repeat, because the AAC is in this weird, like, we're inviting some new teams. We just lost some of our powers because Cincinnati's now in the Big 12. Yep. UCF is now in the Big 12. So those have been 2 of their traditional powers. So because that, I'm taking Tulane. Keep an eye on like UAB. I'm very intrigued by them with Trent Dilfer as their head coach.
Yeah.
Intrigued. But if you had me pick, I'm picking Tulane.
Yep.
Sunbelt.
I have JMU, James Madison.
And I'm going to go with the former UK linebackers coach, John Sumrall, and Troy.
Yep.
The Troy Trojans. They had a good year last year. He's a great coach. He'll be one of those next Power 5 guys.
The players really have rallied around him too, which is a big deal at that level. When you can get your guys to 100% get on board with what you've got going on, that speaks dividends as far as just being able to go out there and run through a brick wall. And he's done that there, I think.
I think I saw a video, and I'm trying to remember what the reasoning behind the video was. But if my memory is right, it was something like one of the media members was battling cancer, and like was still coming to the press conferences, and he like stopped one of his press conferences and just said like, hey, like, thank you. Like, you are going through everything, yet you're still here doing your job. And he's like, I'm kind of telling my players, it's like, if he can do it, like battling, with chemo and everything, then you all can go through the hard parts of life. And it was just really heartwarming to see a coach, step up and have respect for a media member who was covering the team, especially at that lower level where there's not a lot of coverage.
Yep.
Mountain West.
I have Air Force.
Whoa. Air Force. Look at that. Yep. Pulling in here just a little bit behind, but it's never too late, Mr. Paul Reeves. He drops in to say hi.
You missed the slobber fest over the SEC, Paul. Don't worry.
Listen, the SEC's best conference in college football. Yeah, we love you too, Paul. Absolutely. Mountain West for me is Boise State.
Yeah.
Boise State, that's who I'm picking up. Are you really sticking with the Air? I mean, I respect it if you're going all in on Air Force.
I am going all in on Air Force this year. Going all in, darn it.
Listen, you could be the smartest man alive. And then the final conference that we have to pick, Conference USA, with a couple of new teams as well. Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, Sam Houston State.
And?
Is there one more new one in there?
There is.
Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State, New Mexico State. Oh, Liberty.
Right.
Liberty is the other new team in there. Who you picking?
So I'm going with Western, WKU.
Amen.
But I will say, look out for Liberty, and that's why I was saying is Liberty should have a very good year this year as well. They are in the same situation where they have a coach that they have really, really gotten behind.
New coach.
New coach, and I think they're going to be kind of one of those surprise teams where a lot of maybe Conference USA teams will kind of like not expect them to be fairly decent, but Liberty's my dark horse in that conference as well. But I'm
going pick second in the conference for a reason. They're really, really good team. Paul, don't tell me you're a Florida fan. My goodness.
But yeah, I got to go with Toppers, baby.
Yeah, WKU wins the Conference USA for that. Okay, Leroy, who is your playoff? 4 teams to make your playoff. We'll each pick one. So our number 1 seed, my number 1 seed is the Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia for me.
Leroy, your number 2 seed is
Alabama.
Ooh, 2. And how about this? Michigan for me. Look at me putting a Big Ten team above that. Paul says Florida's disappointed me so bad in the last few years, and I love it, Paul. I love it. I'm sorry. I love bad Florida. As a Kentucky fan, I love it. Okay. Number 3, I'll go first this time, and I will say Alabama.
Michigan.
Okay, so we have the same top 3, and really 2 and 3 doesn't matter. You're number 4, Leroy. This is interesting.
I'm going to buck the trend, and I'm going to say USC. I think Caleb Williams gets them to that point where they make the Final Four.
That's exactly what I had.
Was it? Okay.
Exactly what I had. Paul says not picking Georgia, not sure on the quarterback. I don't disagree. I think it'll be interesting to see that, but they're still loaded up with the new
Paul, we did talk a little bit about it. The thing about SEC is because it's so deep, those top 4 or 5 teams, really, it would not shock me, and I'm, again, the resident Big Ten fan, but it would not shock me to see any 4 or 5 of those top teams to be in that spot where they are up top.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know. I just like it would not shock me. Yeah, if Georgia doesn't make the playoff because a team like a Tennessee knocks them off or something. And you can say Georgia's schedule is pathetic, as far as the non-conference schedule, but they still do Tennessee, they still play in that SEC, which is something. And
shocker,
but I guess
SEC has a bad non-con schedule.
Well, because they play a brutal conference schedule.
Yeah, I know.
What's even Northwestern's non-con schedule this year?
Hey, we don't need to talk about Northwestern's.
No, I'm not even trying to hate. What's the FCS team they're going to lose to this year?
Howard.
Oh, nice.
I'm telling you, dude. Every year we play a D2 school, and every year, so we play.
It's close.
I know. We play UTEP.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know it. Howard and yeah, Duke, which we always lose to Duke. So it's crazy, man. Northwestern.
I don't deny Kentucky's is Ball State, Akron, EKU, and Louisville. So I'm not disagreeing with that. And listen, Paul, I'm not going to be one of those people that says that, I want to see more. Like it drives me crazy as a Kentucky fan. I'm in the minority. Most Kentucky fans like playing the MAC teams and so on. But my philosophy is let's, I like playing Louisville, but drop one of the MAC teams or drop the FCS opponent. Start a home and home with a Northwestern, with an Indiana, with a West Virginia. one of those mid-tier Power 5 schools that's close. Fans will have a lot of fun in going a North Carolina, something like that'll make things fun. Like I like Florida right now is Utah. Is that they hosted Utah last year, going to Utah this year, and I understand that that's probably is probably the Urban Meyer connection. But it's still, I like it when these Power 5 schools play somebody different. instead of just always beating up on the FCCS teams. Paul asks about our high schools. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes.
We haven't gotten there yet.
We're going to talk about our pick contest. My high school that I graduated from, since we don't talk about that, is 2-0. They did win last, and it's like their best team. They're loaded. Like the talent that they have really, really excites me. In fact, their best player is Sean Alexander's nephew. It's a name from the past for you. Great running back.
Do you have a pick for your Heisman? Who you think's going to win the Heisman?
So I was even going to ask the question: is Caleb Williams going to be the second person ever to win it twice?
They don't like giving those guys. If USC makes it to the Final Four, he absolutely does get that Heisman. If USC makes it to the Final Four,
just to be different, because I think Caleb Williams is the safe pick.
I went with Jaden Daniels from LSU.
Okay, not a bad pick at all. I'm going to go with two kind of wild card picks.
Okay.
Quinn Ewers from Texas.
Yep.
Since I'm picking Texas to win the Big 12, I got to imagine that he's going to have a big year, just as a wild card pick. And then my other wild card pick, Marvin Harrison from Ohio State, the wide receiver.
I'm excited to see what Marvin can do. I know there's a lot of eyes, especially in Indianapolis, that are going to be watching him play, and a lot of people that are going to be really focused heavily, and I really, really hope he has a good season.
So we both had Georgia versus USC in our playoff. Leroy, who wins the game?
I'm going to go with Georgia.
And you know what? Just to be different, I'll say USC. Just to be different, I'll say USC wins it. Michigan versus Alabama, who wins?
Michigan.
Alabama by 90.
Stop it.
Alabama, USC is mine. Yours is Georgia, Michigan. I'll take Alabama.
Georgia.
Okay, so we're both agreeing that the SEC is going to win the national championship this year.
Yes, sir.
Surprisingly, neither one of us picked Northwestern or Kentucky.
Go figure.
We weren't feeling too risky. I guess.
A couple games shy of it, man. We're almost there. Come on.
Almost there.
We're almost there.
Play here, play there, and you never really know what might come different. Oh wait, I'm putting this up first. It's not that time yet. I gotta. You know what we have to do? We have to 100% cue the music.
Cue it.
There it goes. We'll work on it. It'll come. It's time for Leroy's Logos. It's your chance to.
I have you over the music.
I don't know why, because when we go back and listen, it's fine. Because we talked about this last time, so hopefully you can hear me. Luckily, you don't need to hear me for this segment, because I'm just explaining, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put 3 logos on the screen. Leroy has to tell me what they are, and then there's a theme through the 3 logos. Okay. Let's try it here. Your stats right now, you've gotten 22.5 points out of 59. Okay?
Right.
Leroy, Paul asks, is it logo time? So,
it's
logo time. You have the comments turned off, right?
I do have the comments turned off.
Okay. Would you like door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
I will go. What did I go with last week? Do you remember?
I do not. I do know you went 1 of 4 last week. You went 0 of 3 on the logos, but did get the theme correct.
All right, I'll go 1.
Number one. This is probably your hard one.
Is that Bethune-Cookman?
How in the
Don't they have a lion? The only reason I got it is because of the colors. I promise you, the only reason I got it was because
they changed their. I thought that too, but about a decade ago they changed to this. And since it's been a decade, I felt like it was okay to use that. I would have never in a million years guessed that you would have gotten that.
No, and again, my first initial thought was Boston College. That was my first initial thought was Boston College. Oh my goodness. I won't ever
Bethune-Cookman.
That's my highlight of the whole year.
Okay. Which means that you're guaranteed to miss like the next 30 in a row.
Yes.
2 or 3, which would you like next? 2.
Grambling State.
That is correct. Grambling State. Oh my goodness. I'm assuming that's what Paul was trying to type. It looks like autocorrect might have gotten him. There it goes. Grambling. I
like Game King now. Game King is the new name for them.
Will Leroy get a clean sweep today? The last one.
No, he won't.
The last one. One of my favorite logos in college athletics. Paul says he knows it. Paul, Leroy can't see the comments, so if you want to drop it in there, you can. The final one. Can Leroy get it to go for a sweep on 3 tough ones? Let me see if Paul got it. Oh, he doesn't know the last one. He knows the second one. He does not know this one, I guess.
I will go with UAB.
UAB. Is that your final answer?
Yes, sir.
Is that your final answer? Let me just make sure. Paul says he's seen it before, but I'm sorry, Leroy.
Yeah, Is it FAU?
Right state. Florida A&M.
Florida. Yeah, no.
The Rattlers.
And see, I'm with Paul. I recognize that logo.
The Rattlers. So Ken Riley, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame from the Bengals, that was his nickname because he played at Florida A&M, and his nickname was the Rattler because they're the Rattlers. And again, shout out to Florida A&M. High class. I mean, that is a top-tier logo.
That really is.
Okay, Leroy, you've gotten 2 out of 3. What is the theme?
Okay.
Bethune-Cookman, Grambling State, and Florida A&M. And I will tell you this, there are 2 potential themes that I will get you, but I think really one of them you will not get. So really there's only one.
Okay. They're all the first teams to play football this year. They were up first to play college football.
That's really not a bad guess at all, but I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I don't really, because you don't deserve it fully, but in honor of Bob Barker, I have to. You got to just take one for the team. Remember to spay and neuter your pets.
And good job for Bob to reach 99 and not go over.
It asks it Division 1 AA. They are technically all FCS teams, but the theme is they're all historically black colleges, HBCUs. They're also all in the SWAC conference. So if you would have pulled that out, I would have given it to you, but they're all HBCUs.
So Bethune-Cookman, the only reason I really know Bethune-Cookman is, do you remember the old college basketball game that was released? So that seemed to be one of the, I don't know if they were a really good team that year or what, but it seemed like you were always like facing them in like week 1 or whatever. It was something like, and that's the only reason that, quite honestly, I even know. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul said that they're all in the same conference, and I'd give you like half a point but HBCU is the main one. They're all historically black colleges. Yeah. Found it very interesting. I would have literally never, I was going through and I was trying to find my number 3. And I was like, "Boo, Bethune-Cookman. There ain't no way Leroy's getting this." I felt like Grambling was the one that you'd get because it's a pretty common one.
Georgia Light.
Yeah, pretty much. How about some play clock?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ask or answer. Sure, as long as you don't steal mine.
I might. Let's see what we got here. There are 25 new head coaches this year, according to a few sources that I saw. Which coach will do the best?
I guess you're talking college football?
College football, sorry. Yeah, that was our big focus is on college football in this episode. So that's what I'm talking about, college football.
Gosh, I'm trying to even think of these ones that have new coaches. I'm trying to think of ones like of big schools that might have brand new coaches. Gosh, I'm not even sure when thinking about who would come up of
Nebraska,
these...
Wisconsin, Colorado, Auburn, Louisville, Liberty.
I'll say Wisconsin. Luke Fickell. I'm all in on Luke Fickell. I think he's a good coach. I'm intrigued by Colorado and Dion. Intrigued. I don't know that it's going to work, but I don't know that it's not going to work. Like it's going to be very boom or bust. But if you had me, I'm going to take Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. That'll just be who I say.
I'm really interested to see how Jeff Brom does at Louisville. I know, and I promise you, I am not even remotely close to being a Louisville fan. I can't stand them, to be honest with you. But I am intrigued to see how Jeff Brom does over there, simply because he did fairly decent at Purdue with what he had.
For Purdue, in Purdue standards, he did very well.
Yeah,
he did very well in Purdue standards. I'm going to stick in the college football realm for you, Leroy. And over the weekend, we talked about week 0 of the college football season came out. And it was the first time that fans were able to experience the new rules, specifically that the clock no longer stops after a team picks up a first down. And it's going to the NFL rule where it continues to run no matter if it's a first down or not. Do you like it?
Yes, and I'll tell you why I like it. Unlike baseball, where I am not a big fan of the pitch clock, I actually do like it in football. It keeps the game going, and it makes me super hypocritical. But I really like the rule in college football because a lot of times they'll take a commercial for that kick right before the kickoff. They'll have the kickoff and they'll have that first play, and then they'll call a first down, or they'll do another commercial break. So any effort to try to keep that game going a little bit. I mean, we're talking 3.5-hour football games. I'm all right with it. I think it'll cut down on injuries a whole lot by keeping them going and not by having them stand still. So, yes, I'm a hypocrite, but I like the rule in football.
At least you can admit you're a hypocrite.
100%. I hate it in baseball. Love it in football.
And see, there's a chance I could be the opposite. I'm not sure. Already, I'm ready. Oh, I've only given myself 39 seconds. That's not fair.
No, we got to give yourself 40.
Yeah.
All right. There are 43 bowl games with the Bahamas Bowl on December 16th, all the way to the national championship on January 8th. Listen, I love college football as much as the next guy, but are there too many bowl games?
Yes and no. I mean, I like it because I think you're trying to create college football to give the best experience for the fans. And I think what's good is when you get I think that it's good when you get it's better for a 6-win Western Kentucky to make a bowl than it is a 6-win Northwestern to make a bowl. Because for the 6-win Western Kentucky, they look forward to that all year. They're getting the payout from the bowl, they're getting the money. But from Northwestern, it almost turns into this, we got to go play Montana A&M, in Dubuque, and, it's awful. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's kind of what I'm saying.
I don't know if Northwestern's the best answer for that. I think we're pretty positive about going to any bowl game that we possibly can.
You get what I'm saying. Then.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying.
This weekend is a 3-day weekend for most. With Labor Day coming up on Monday. So, Leroy, I ask you this question. Which is the better 3-day weekend? Friday off or Monday off?
Oh, Monday. And I'm already second guessing myself on that statement because I truly enjoy my Fridays off, but having Monday off makes it feel like a shorter week. Yes, it's the same, and having Friday off is awesome, but I enjoy when I get my Mondays off. I really do, because it makes everything. Well, and I think a big reason for that, honestly, is my news connection. I have a lot of meetings that are Monday nights that get pushed to Tuesdays if there's a day off, whereas I don't have a whole lot of meetings on Friday. And I think that's a big reason why I like having Mondays off.
Even at 3 seconds to spare. Paul brings up the point here about, with the bowl game point is 16 teams in the top bowl game and have a tournament. I think you're going to be seeing that in the next. I mean, they're already going to be shifting into 8. I think you're going to see it at 16 at some point. And I think that will be doing it. And Paul, it doesn't work that way. He says, give me both Friday and Monday off. It doesn't work that way. It's a 3-day weekend. You can't have them both. You have to pick one. And see, I'd probably be with you because then also for us, so much of our jobs happens on Friday because, we have high school sports and Friday is a very popular night for those to happen.
Yeah.
Do you have your drivers ready or do you want
I
to,
do.
or do you want me to off my chest first or how do we want to do this?
You're off your chest and I'll have this all ready to go for you.
Okay. Are you sure you want this?
I do. I'm all right.
I'm allowed to have my soapbox. And this is not the first time I've had my soapbox about it. Paul agrees that having Monday is better than having Friday off. So on Friday night, we talked about our football game. Grayson County had the rain delay and all of that. And At halftime, it was homecoming. And we live stream all of the games on video and then also on the radio. And during halftime, and Leroy, I'm not sure if you're the same way, we have a pre-produced segment, which is an interview with somebody local that's about 5 minutes long that is made for where we have, a 2-minute break on each side of that and a 5-minute segment in between. So, it turns out to be about a 10-minute break off. Reason for it is simple enough. It gives me the chance to go to the bathroom. Because, Leroy, like in all seriousness, we don't get the chance to in the middle of a game. Paul asked homecoming already. Yeah, they had to start it early because it's the 50th season of the football team, and they hosted this big alumni thing, and the president of the Alumni Association couldn't be there next week, and they're playing a decent team, and so on. So that's just why they picked it. I don't get into the whole why they pick homecoming. But we always play this pre-produced segment. And see, I don't mind that because in case the last game gets canceled for some reason, then they don't get screwed out of it. I don't mind that. But we have this pre-produced segment because, for one, it gives me a break and it also gives my crew, we have the high school kids that work on our crew, a break. And in our comment section, which again is an abyss, welcome to social media, people were losing their mind at us not showing homecoming and instead showing a pre-produced interview that was with the first ever head coach of the football team from 50 years ago. Fascinating guy. Great talk, great interview. And I'm not just saying that because I was the one that did it. It was really interesting to hear the man talk. And there were these comments from people who are just complaining, saying that we made an awful programming decision, not showing homecoming, blah, 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 and so on. Like pretty much like, and then, so I commented as our radio station and said, hey, we do this pre-produced segment to give our crew a break because they've been standing up and working for the last 3 hours. And then also, if you haven't stepped outside, it's 135 degrees outside. It's a little hot. I think they deserved a 10-minute break. And one person responds and says, well, that's okay. I'm never going to watch again. And I'm like, okay. And this is pretty much, Paul is leading to my point. If you want to see homecoming, pay the $5 and go yourself. But it's also this realm, and I think in kind of to take the long way around to what my off my chest is we as a society just feel the need to complain about things. Because my boss always has the line of, tell them, the people that complain about our broadcasts, we will double the money back you paid for to get it. And Leroy, how much do people pay to listen to our broadcasts? $0. So we'll double the money. We'll double the money back. And to me, it's kind of one of these things. And look, I'm kind of guilty of it too on some things. But what right do we have when you're not paying any money to get this? If you were paying us $15 or something like that, yeah, that'd be different. You'd have a right to have some things. Yep. But it's just like to just sit there and just complain nonstop about things. And it's the same thing with, oh, well, news stories shouldn't be covered this way. I think you should do it this way. And it's like, stop complaining and just be grateful for what you get. You're lucky you have this.
I had somebody that got really mad.
Paul, I'm wondering who you paid the $50 to, because I'd like some of that.
I got somebody really upset because I used according to them, I used the wrong picture for a story.
Yeah, and it's just like, and a lot of this too is it's an honest mistake sometimes, Yeah. And for us, I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm a nice enough boss that I decided that, okay, my crew gets 10 minutes to go to the restroom.
How
They
dare
get
you?
to go get a hot dog. They get to talk to their friend, because they're working. They're not getting paid a lot, and they're 16, 17-year-olds. It just is. It's like it is. It's one of those things that just really annoys you because the work that we put in, and it's frustrating, and I need to get off my soapbox before I. It's just the whiners. I can't do it anymore, and social media brings out the worst in people for that.
Yes, it does, because everybody has a keyboard that they can hide behind.
It's annoying. Okay,
I get it.
I'm ready for my drivers.
All right, my friend.
Before I get myself in trouble. Oh, 40 seconds isn't off my chest. We're allowed to go as long as we want, Paul.
Yep. For those who don't know how this works, I'm going to show Sam a driver. He doesn't have to tell me who the driver is. All he has to do is tell me if he drives for F1, NASCAR, or IndyCar. Maybe I'll throw in some like NHRA guys in there and see how you do with like NHRA guys.
That would not be fair whatsoever. Can you make?
I'm working on it. I'm working
make
on it.
Make them a little bigger there. Okay, I got to go full screen here on this end. Okay. IndyCar.
All right. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum. That is Ross Chastain, NASCAR driver.
Interesting.
He is the guy who rode the wall and used it to get himself into the playoffs because of it.
Yep. At Phoenix, right? Or was it Phoenix?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, it was supposed to go to the next one. I don't know why it didn't go to the next one. We're still learning about this stuff, man.
One of these days we'll figure it out.
Stuff. I don't know, man. All right, hold on. Wait. There we go. All right. Next up, if I can get this darn thing to work right. There we go. All right.
Bitcoin.
I gotta figure out a way to blur like the hat or the logos
doesn't help me at all. Bitcoin's not NASCAR though, I can tell you that. It's NASCAR fans don't know what Bitcoin is.
I'm not sure if drivers of this series know what it is either.
IndyCar.
Yes, it is IndyCar. That is Rinus VK. He is a IndyCar driver. Absolutely.
Paul misses this one. So Paul and I are tied 1-2. Bitcoin told him F1. Bitcoin to me says Indy. Oh man, we're getting zoomed in on him. Okay, let's go to the next one here.
Oh, come on. There we go.
Oh, I just hit the wrong button. There we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah, how old is that guy? He's younger. He's got to be younger than me.
Hold on, I'll tell you exactly how old he is.
He looks like he's 4 years old.
He is 25.
So he is younger than me.
He was born February 15th, 1998.
I'll say F1. I have no idea.
That is F1. His name is George Russell. He's an F1 driver. He's teammates with Lewis Hamilton, who we showed you, I believe, last week.
Yeah, as long as Leroy doesn't show us genitalia again on the screen.
It wasn't my genitalia. It was a finger. Stop. It was a finger.
Oh, Paul says Indy. So I got what? 2 out of 3 this week. That's good. Pick contest. All right. Recap of last week. If you remember, Leroy and I both got one chance to pick last week. I got to pick the Taylorville, Richland County game, and I picked Richland County. Leroy, what was the final score?
Taylorville 41, Richland County 6.
Woo! Big old 0 for 1 over here.
I think I lost 2 though. What was the score?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Marshall County, Grayson County. Leroy picked Pick Grayson County. Final score: Marshall County 26, Grayson County 20. So we both missed our picks last week. So Leroy, here's what I want to bring up to you. Since we have multiple picks here this week, how we're going to do this week to week too is each week we're going to continue picking the high school games. So I'll pick Leroy's, Leroy will pick mine. Every week we will pick the Kentucky football game. We will pick the Northwestern football game. We will pick the WKU game. When the NFL starts next week, we'll pick the Bengals and we'll pick the Bears game. And then each week, Leroy and I will both pick 2 games from either D1 college football or the NFL. So that would give us a total of, in most weeks, 10 total points a week. So Leroy, since you have the number one, you're in first right now, technically 1-0.
Yep.
You will get to choose of, I guess, twofold. Do we want to, since you're winning, get to pick either first or second the entire time? Or when we get rolling do you want to just snake it and whoever's leading gets to pick whether they want to pick first or second for the first one, and then we snake it?
Let's snake it.
And I agree with that. But first off, let's pick the high school games. And do we want to pick Taylorville or Grayson first?
You can do Taylorville first.
Okay, so I get to ask you 2 questions about this game, and you get to ask me 1 question about my game to continue that. So tell me what the matchup is.
The matchup is the Taylorville Tornadoes, who are 1-0. I'll even give you the records, against the Robinson Maroons, who are 0-1.
Okay, I get 2 questions about that. I guess this won't count as one of my questions because it's something that we'll mention. You said this is in Taylorville, correct?
Correct. This is in Taylorville. Okay. It's Taylorville's senior night.
Okay. Did these 2 teams play last year?
They did not.
They did not.
In fact, I'll even go one step further and say I looked and I don't see the last time that these 2 teams played each other.
Interesting. How big of a school is Robinson? Give or take. I'm
going to cheat. Hold on a second.
This is probably an awful question.
It is 465 students.
Alrighty. I'm going to roll with Paul Reeves tells me to pick the Tornadoes, so I'm going to pick the Tornadoes. And you can lock that in as my final answer.
All right.
Okay, and I'll even go in here. Taylorville picking that here, which congratulations, Robinson. You've now picked up a win this week. Grayson County, yeah, are they okay? Since I can't change my pick, are they in the same class as Taylorville?
They are not.
Okay, Taylorville's in a bigger class.
They're in a much lower class.
Okay. Grayson County hosts McLean County in a matchup coming up this week. On Friday night at 7 o'clock here at Cougar Stadium. It is a matchup between 2 Cougars, as Grayson County is the Cougars and McLean County is the Cougars. Leroy, you get 1 question to ask me about the matchup.
Did these teams play each other last year?
They did. Do I want to be nice and tell you the result? I will and say McLean County won 22-14 in overtime.
Overtime. Okay.
Correct. Leroy, are you taking Grayson County or McLean County? The Cougs are the Cougs.
Well, I got to go with the Cougars.
Big.
Yeah. All right. I will go Grayson County. It bit me in the bum last week, but I'm going to try it again this week.
Leroy picks Grayson County over McLean County. That is it. So he gets his 1 question.
I like how you guys down in Kentucky do all counties like versus each other, and like up here it's like 3 cities that are all connected that basically just play each other.
Paul's picking McLean, 21-20.
Right.
I hope it's that close of a game again because that makes our job much easier. All righty, the next game. So Leroy, since you are technically winning 1-0, would you like to pick first or second for the first game on our list, which is the Kentucky game?
Second.
You're going to pick second. That means I pick first, Kentucky against Ball State, and I'm going to pick Kentucky. Who do you got, Leroy?
Kentucky.
All righty. That means the next pick, Leroy, Northwestern at Rutgers. Who's your pick?
It's at Rutgers, right?
It is.
Gosh.
Will he pick against his Cats in game 1, or will he be a homer?
I'm going to go Northwestern. God,
Paul is picking Northwestern. Leroy is picking Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Sam is picking Rutgers.
Of course you are.
Because Rutgers quarterback, I called a game he played in high school. I got to pick that. My turn to pick first. WKU hosts South Florida for the opening game of the season. I'm rolling with the Tops, picking Western Kentucky to defeat South Florida. Leroy.
Well, I hate to pick the same team as you all the time, but yeah, I got to go Western.
Okay, he picks WKU. Leroy, we'll let you pick your game first. Which college football game are you putting in?
So we are putting in number 21, University of North Carolina versus South Carolina.
Okay, and I guess I'll pick first for that. How about the other person picks first for the...
That's fine.
And I'll take South Carolina.
All right, and I will go North Carolina.
Ooh, we're splitting here. For my game, I'm going to go with a game that I believe is tomorrow night. Florida travels to Utah, the Fighting Paul Reeves against Utah.
Yeah, so this one intrigues me, right? On paper,
for one, Utah Paul Reeves picking South Florida over Western. Come on, Paul.
On paper, Utah looks better. But I will go with Utah.
Paul or Leroy picks Utah. I pick Utah in that game. Leroy, your second pick or second game.
All right. Number 5, LSU versus number 8, Florida State.
You pick mine. I'm rolling with the Tigers. Go Tigers, taking LSU in that game. Yep.
All right, I'm going with LSU as well.
We're both going for that. And then I guess the final game that I will pick, since literally I wrote 4 games down and 3 of them have been taken. I think this is an easy one for us to pick. Ohio State at Indiana.
Ooh. See, these matchups always intrigue me, right? Because like Indiana has like a ton to prove. And really Tom's on the line. Like Tom's job is like really on the like. If any Big Ten coaches on the hot seat, it's definitely in Indiana. But I gotta go with Ohio State.
And I'm agreeing, Ohio State. They just named their starting quarterback, Paul. And if we were good at our job, I would have been able to tell you who that is.
For you.
But clearly, we're not good at our job.
Kyle McCord.
Of course,
Kyle McCord. I cheated. I 100% cheated.
So to go over this again, here are our picks for the week. In Grayson County, McLean County, Leroy is the only one that can pick. He's picking Grayson County. Taylorville versus Robinson, I'm picking Taylorville. Kentucky versus Ball State, we're both on the Cats. Northwestern at Rutgers, Leroy's being the homer, sticking with Northwestern. I'm going with Rutgers. Western Kentucky and South Florida, Leroy and I are both being homers, picking WKU. Florida at Utah, we're both rolling with the Utes. Ohio State at Indiana, we're both rolling with the Buckeyes. We split on North Carolina at South Carolina. I'm going with the Gamecocks, Leroy's with North Carolina. And for LSU, Florida State, we are both with the Tigers. Paul says he's picking Indiana. Wouldn't shock me. Indiana likes to pull those.
Listen, I would love nothing more than for Indiana to win. I promise you. Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. So we'll get to Leroy is still up 1-0 overall in the pick contest, but that could change next week. I have to admit,
some separate picks. We do have some separate picks.
And I mean, listen, if I get a big old goose egg up again, we're quitting. This game's over because I'm going to be mad. Because that would mean Kentucky lost to Ball State, and I'm going to be very grumpy next week. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Leroy, this has been fun as always.
I get my 40 seconds, my friend.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. I get to talk my favorite thing in the world. I get to talk racing. So I got to go to St. Louis this weekend. Got to go to the.
I didn't start your 40 yet.
Yeah, but now you're talking
You've taken a few extra 40 seconds.
I got to go to St. Louis this weekend to go to the IndyCar race. I got to meet my favorite driver, and on top of that, he won. But the greatest thing about him winning in St. Louis makes things really, really interesting. There are 2 races left in the IndyCar season. Scott Dixon finds himself 74 points behind Alex Palou for the championship. If Alex Palou finishes in the top 10 and Scott Dixon finishes in the top 10, it's over. Scott Dixon needs to win, and Alex Palou needs to finish lower than 10th for him to keep his championship hopes alive. An absolutely fantastic weekend. I encourage everyone to go to at least one race in their lifetime. There is nothing quite like that experience. They race in Portland on Sunday.
Feel better now?
Yes, thank you.
Did you have fun?
I did, though. I really had a blast. It was really, really cool. A lot of the drivers hang out and they talk, when you walk by, and they'll take pictures with you. And
how many restraining orders did you get placed on you?
What's that?
How many restraining orders did you get placed on you?
Only one.
Only one.
Only one. I tell you what, though, I do get nervous.
Was it Danica? Was it Danica again? We talked about this.
Thanks, Paul. I had fun with the logos this week, man.
I still can't believe Bethune-Cookman. The odds of you picking, literally, I think in the history of Leroy's logos, that would have been like in the bottom tier of my confidence in you actually pulling it out.
I'll never be able to do it again. Just know that.
Yeah. I'm going to put like Alabama up next week, and you're not going to get it kind of thing. It'll be one of those things. That'll wrap us up for this week. We'll be back next week. NFL preview.
Yeah, we're pretty excited, man. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll go through each division, make our picks there, our Super Bowl picks, MVP picks, and so on. And
have you had your fantasy football draft yet?
No. No.
So I had mine tonight, and actually it kind of interfered with the first 5 minutes of our podcast. But my starting lineup is Richardson, Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, DJ Moore, the Steelers, and Justin Tucker.
I've done fantasy football for probably about 15 years, give or take.
And you've never taken the Steeler ever?
Not once. Not once.
I'm so proud of you.
Not once. Never.
Yeah.
I've never done it. And here's the thing. Because I know that I would rather lose my fantasy than have to cheer for them. And listen, I've been good at it. I'm the reigning Jungle League fantasy football champion.
Did you read any Packer players on that list?
No. I didn't read Aaron Rodgers on that list either. Are you allowed to pick him now, or is he still?
Oh, I will never pick Aaron Rodgers.
I do agree. Anthony Richardson is your quarterback. He's buying a lottery ticket.
I know, Paul. I know, but it was either him or Deshaun Watson. I didn't trust either of them.
Yeah, you're not going to a massage parlor, so I don't think that. I probably should turn my mic off here before I get myself in trouble.
Sam Gormley, care of.
Yeah. I think that should end our broadcast here before I get myself in trouble.
That's it. We're done. We're done.
We'll see you next week for another edition of From the Press Box. Paul, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
All. God bless.
Okay, let's see here. Is it going? Is it going?
You are
still
alive, my friend.
It's trying to end right now, so maybe we're not. Maybe we're going to continue the broadcast here. We're trying to keep going here. I don't know. My internet doesn't seem to want us to stop, Leroy. I guess we got to keep on going. I don't know if we're still live. Oh, it says here, can't connect to the internet. So apparently, I don't know how this means that we have to continue the show. Let's try this again. We'll see you next